No disintegrations.
Not to me.
Put Captain Solo in the cargo hold.
I'm coming to your house. All right. What's going on, fellas?
Not too much.
Hi, fandom.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Wes, Andy, and Hank back with another episode of Fandom Power, the little show here we like to call the Book of Boba Fandom. Week 3. I almost came to the table tonight wearing a helmet, and that's no lie. I don't know, but I don't know about you guys.
It's a good thing I don't own a gaffy stick.
I'm pretty active in the fan communities, and man, did anybody else feel like they were dodging a lot of stuff? Holy crap, there's another toxic comment. Oh, another upset fan. Whoa.
Yeah, it was mental. And Saturday morning I woke up and I let him have it. I wrote something on the toilet. You ever do that? It's like profound.
Oh and my gosh, yes.
I was just like, that's it. I'm done. I don't want to just get out. And I don't want to, we're not going to read it or anything, but
no,
I guess I don't understand. And it to the point that it made me angry enough to want to like say my piece. And I don't often do that.
Do we want to just take a couple minutes, get it out of our system and just get it out of the way? Because let's be honest here. We've said it before. I don't know about you guys. I mean, I don't want to speak for anybody, even though I'm pretty sure I know your positions on things. We kind of really love the brand. We love the property. We love what's varying degrees of love, but generally speaking, we love Star Wars. And as we've said many times before, I would rather have more Star Wars than not.
Yeah. A lot of these people, I'm starting to sound like a weirdo. These people.
Looking at you, Jerry.
I don't know if they were alive during the drought, and that's okay. You could be a young fan and still matter and still appreciate what's going on.
Absolutely.
There was a huge drought between 83 and like 92, where there was nothing but our brains. Maybe some Marvel comics.
If you were hanging on for dear life to the action figure line, you could squeeze that out to 85.
And we had some role-playing games, so we got a place to stretch our imaginations. But it was dead air. We would have cut our arms off for a Boba Fett show or anything. Anything.
Yeah.
A poster.
Yeah.
And now I think that people are spoiled. And
the on-demand culture.
I think they need their art spoon-fed to them. I don't.
Sometimes, yeah.
I don't think they have. I haven't heard many legs to stand on. The viable arguments the voices aren't that loud. That's the problem, is that the voice of the ignorant dissenter is so loud. It's crazy.
It is. It's very loud. It's almost like, I don't like using the term, but I mean, it's quite an echo chamber. Like, if you're not saying something, it's overwhelming, and it's hard to be, a can I say balanced fan? Because certainly that's informed by our own likes and opinions and stuff. But I mean, as somebody who I think for the most part, I'm a pretty balanced fan. I can accept the criticisms of things, as I've said before.
Right.
You can be critical of something without having to attack it or attack the people who do like it.
And that's the distinction. I think that it seems, I haven't heard a critical, I mean, I shouldn't say I haven't heard one. I've heard a few, viable contenders for critical analysis of these things.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's just everybody's parroting, I don't like the color of the Vespas, or some iteration of, I don't like those Vespa characters, or the mod kids. I don't like the zippers. Can we please?
Can we talk about zippers? Sure, we can.
About zippers? So there's
of course we can.
There's a super famous thing it's actually in one of the old Star Wars notebooks. Where there it is. Okay, let's just hold on that for a second.
Sure.
Ralph McQuarrie and another design guy decided they didn't want to show any zippers in Star Wars. That was like a grail item. No zippers. You
didn't want to show it. Put a flap on it.
Right. And so people are citing that. Okay, it's canon. Like
that there's no zippers in Star Wars.
That there are no zippers in Star Wars, and therefore that Drac, or is that her name? Sorry,
Drash.
Drash. Yeah, I'm new. She's new. Drash wouldn't have zippers all over her in
her jacket.
Yeah. And if we go back to the fight in the with the bikers, right?
Which we will.
There's no jeans in Star Wars either. There's no denim. Like they were,
So did anybody? I don't know about you guys. I mean, certainly through the research that we do for the show, were you guys aware that for Episode 4 for Star Wars back in '77, all the hero pants were denim jeans.
Yeah, Luke's were bleached Levi's.
They were bleached white,
Yeah,
and Han's were just the Carillion blood stripe was just added.
So just so everybody realizes, Luke zips up a zipper on his flight suit in that scene in Empire Strikes Back.
Absolutely, he does.
They to go stand on another mountain.
Right. All right. So that's, I think it's universally, I won't say universally, but I think the biggest criticism this week has been the mod gang. And I think, I think it's cool. And I'm going to go right out on the limb right here and say, I think it's cool for a couple of reasons. Because first of all, I was born in the 1970s, so I was not around, and I certainly did not live in the UK. I've not visited the UK. I was not exposed to the mod culture. And so when you start looking things up for the purposes of the show and you find out that mod culture is really kind of steeped in the whole, there's a fashion element to it and this whole identity with the scooter thing. Well, it sure, I get it. The visual thing's great. But then there's this whole other level where it's like the double meaning.
Right.
What about the whole cyberpunk thing? And I said it in a couple times this week. It's like, that's pretty clever. Mods using mods. Ha ha ha. I get it.
It's got deep roots in Star Wars. We got Dengar the Bounty Hunter. It's modified.
We're going to talk about, I've got a slide on that we're going to talk about a little bit later because I think that's a pretty cool sort of in-universe conversation that we can have.
There's so many sort of other things that that these kids just like. It's so Star Wars. I can't even begin. I almost tripping over my words. George Lucas made American Graffiti to make the money to make Star Wars, but that movie was about hot rods. And so if we're not paying an homage to them, and this was the idea of the cars and the hot wiring scene in the beginning of Solo. These are homages to the man that actually breathed life into this whole thing.
Yep.
So, and then it's like you said, you probably want to speak on it, the Middle Eastern culture of kids having flashy cars. There's
a whole vibrant color. That was one of the arguments that came up this week was like the Vespa scooter speeders make no sense because of the candy paint and how well they're maintained on Tatooine. And I'm like, has nobody been to the Middle East? Has nobody been to a poor arid country?
Has no one seen The Fast and the Furious?
Well, I mean, let's take the Hollywood out of it. I mean, because this is where a lot of people have talked about it before. A lot of the criticism comes from transference. This idea of what we think it should be, and we superimpose those thoughts and those wishes onto what it is. Sure. So if you're gonna make the argument that the paint would be scuffed in a desert environment, sure, but pride of ownership trumps all of that. And when I say that, I mean there is a vibrant car culture in the Middle East, which is a desert. So all of these issues that people are having with immaculate paint jobs on Tatooine are just as real in the real world. Absolutely. And I said earlier to you, Hank, we were talking how many times, and Andy, you've seen it too. I mean, we live in a small town, so I mean, trust me, we see this all the time. Kids with no money because they don't really, they have a bare minimum wage job, or they just don't have a lot of money, have a POS Honda Civic or whatever.
Right.
It may not look great under the hood, but it's got the snazziest wheels, the best paint, all the light mods and the stereo. And it's like, because that's part of their identity that they've put everything that they have into that conveyance. And I see that the mod gang is exactly the same thing.
Yeah. It's got working class roots. And so you're trying to like, put something on your exterior to show that you can keep that you're it's like a longing not to be where your roots are. It's like sneaker culture in hip hop, where the kids in the poorest parts of America have $300 Air Jordans on their feet because it's a status symbol, and it's a working class symbol, and that's exactly what this is. And I just think people that don't get that can enjoy your day.
And on top of that, I think these kids are going to help answer a question left over from Mandalorian. Because Boba picked her up. Fennec Shand picked her up on Tatooine.
That's true.
Who did he go to get her fixed up?
Oh, that's a great question. And you know what? I never even thought about that this week. But that you totally.
Clearly, there is somebody on Tatooine doing mods.
Yeah.
Mods.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I don't know. Let's get into it because
All right.
that's enough.
Okay, so we've got all that out of us now. Not going to say that it's not going to come back up organically throughout the conversation because I know there's a few slides that are gonna spark some things. However, all right, this is the Book of Boba Fandom. This is how we do it right here on Fandom Power. All the lore connections, all the speculation, and all the other things that you've come to expect from the show. All right, this one is Chapter 3. It's called The Streets of Mos Espa. Debuted on Disney Plus Wednesday, January 12th. 2022 has a runtime of 39 minutes even with your credits, or 32 minutes 17 seconds without. This one again does not have a post-credit scene because it's not really a Star Wars thing, although I'm not convinced that we won't get one by the end of the season. I mean, we got that we got the throne room sequence out of Mandalorian. So once again, written by Jon Favreau, and Robert Rodriguez is back to direct this one. All right, so a couple things I want to put out early on. I want to talk about Mock Shays before we get into the actual beat for beat stuff, because last week I had said, the week before I had said that I thought that he may have been the real villain behind things, that maybe he had worked something out with Bib Fortuna, and I think on some level there's some truth to that he is a bigger villain than we thought, but maybe just in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, if he's, like the corrupt politician, so he enables the bad guys to be able to, if it greases his wheels, he allow, he can look different way, or the Commissioner Gordon in a Batman universe can make it very difficult on the criminals.
Oh yeah, of course.
Corrupt cops can make it easy on them, so that's kind of him. He's sort of like the corrupt official, the quintessential sort of corrupt official.
And I just want to give props to you, Hank, because if there was ever any doubt leading up to this episode, it has all been removed. It is, in fact, a Nal Hutty's letter K. It can't be anything else but that, because we now learn the name of the Nikto biker gang, and it totally lines up with that letter K.
Perfect.
All right. Go back to the title of this episode just for a second.
Of course we can, yeah.
Did anybody else sing it in the Streets of Laredo?
I did not.
No.
Just me?
Should I have?
Well, I don't know.
Streets of Philadelphia by Bruce Springsteen.
I was leaning more Johnny Cash, Streets of Laredo.
There you go.
Streets of Mos Espa.
All right, guys, let's break it down. Let's get right into it. Okay, so the episode begins and we get that opening shot from the marketing material with the Bomar monk. It's a panning shot of the palace, and in the foreground, a six-legged Bomar monk droid scuttles past. It's the same shot that we saw used in the first trailer, giving us a really good look at the palace from an angle that we generally don't see very often. All right, in the throne room.
At the same time, though, they don't really give a scale on that thing.
No, they don't. You know what, though?
We're in Jedi, when they walked through, that thing was huge.
It's massive, yeah. Well, they talk. So the Wikipedia talks about there being a couple variations of this, that there is a 4-legged version and a 6-legged version.
Huh.
And I'm pretty sure the 4-legged version is the giganormous one we saw back in the film.
Right.
I think this one is a little bit smaller, but again, as you say,
maybe they grow over time.
Different species.
Different species. For sure. It would make sense that way. All right. In the throne room, an R5 series astromech projects a hollow image of Mos Espa, while 8D8 stands over it, briefing Boba and Fennec on the division of power since the demise of Jabba. It's kind of a funny little thing here, because the 8D8 is hesitant to actually, it's okay, you can say his name. And he's like, but why?
Harry Potter line, like he who shall not be named.
He who shall not be named. Yeah. Why would I be insulted? Because you felt threatened. Well, now I am insulted. Cool little thing though. We get the division of power. He highlights the hollow map and explains how the Trandoshans had taken over the city center, while the Aqualish are now in control of the Workers District, and the Klatooinians have taken the Starport and the Upper Sprawl.
Just before that, he had a version of the map that had all the markers on the businesses specifically controlled by Jabba.
Yes.
And I was super interested. I sat there and stared. I mean, there's no, like, he can't tell what the businesses are, but I was super interested in, like, I want that map.
Oh yeah, big time, big time. But this is a big thing that we've talked about before about the power vacuum in the absence of Jabba, and we were kind of misled, I think, because at one point it was like, is his influence like? Because they talk about Jabba's territory, and we just assume, you know, with the line "I am the daimyo of Tatooine" meant, oh, you run the whole planet. But this suggests that no, that territories are broken up even smaller than that.
Yeah, like there are several. Yeah, I'd mentioned that in a message earlier in the week.
Yeah,
it seems like that the districts are quite small. And then when he says, there's a line where he said last episode when he's talking to the mayor, if the daimyo of Tatooine deem it so, and, like plural, like you know, like camel is plural without an S. You know what I mean? Like
moose,
like, moose. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And suggesting that, you know, there's just like, say, Sopranos, there's the New Jersey family, but there's the Florida family too, right?
Right.
And
of course there is.
You know, while we like to think that Jabba was, you know, he was literally the guy we were introduced to, and you know, he's the crime lord that we had in our little sector of the universe that we were privy to, but certainly it's a much larger galaxy, and we see that.
It makes the politics of an outer rim world like Tatooine far more interesting when you know that there are perhaps several criminal organizations that are all just kind of
vying for control.
Yeah. I thought it was an interesting point, though. So interesting to know that is, like I say, is broken up more than what we thought.
And these are just the 3 that came out on top, right?
Right.
So who knows who else is still out there?
Well, see, maybe at one point, maybe when Jabba was alive, maybe the territory was much larger, and with the fracture, you know, with his death, maybe that did create a fracture and did break things up.
And everybody scrambled.
He ran it for, you know, if you go back into the Clone Wars, he ran Tatooine for a long time, for what we know.
Yeah.
I mean, at least Mos Espa, he ran it for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least pre-episode 1.
Yeah. So continuing, 8D8 goes on to say that Bib Fortuna did not have the power that Jabba, so he relied on uneasy alliances to preserve his tribute and title while lining the pockets of Mock Shays, that evil bastard.
That answers our question about Bib Fortuna having the pull, which he
just did not have it. But I mean, somebody had to have identified that guy as a useful pawn.
Yeah.
And so the question around that is, was it the mayor who did that, or was it, you know, we find out that the mayor is working for working for the Pikes.
I've gotten good at my job over the last 13 years since I've been a construction supervisor, but I was literally in the room when the guy who was in my position before was fired and the keys were thrown at me. So,
oh wow,
like
it could be something that drastic,
or even just as silly, you know.
You just happen to be right there at the time,
right in the right guy at the right moment, and you know, with some of the qualifications, at least, you know, Bib has been there for a while. Certainly he's been there since the Phantom Menace. He's been the major domos for 40 or 50 years. So I mean,
he would have had that inner knowledge.
He knew all the passwords. He knew where the bodies were buried. Things.
Exactly.
So that's what I kind of, as they were explaining it, that the impression I got was like, well, there's no one else here. I might as well sit down. Like, you know, like.
Yeah. So taking stock of the information presented to him, Boba asks, where does that leave us now? When 8D8 asserts that everyone is waiting to see what kind of leader he is. And when Boba questions, what about the assassins? Fennec tells him that the mayor has no power and someone else must be behind them. Naturally, Boba assumes it's the Hutts, and Fennec agrees with him, at least in part, as she offers to ask around on his behalf. The pair aren't stupid, and they know that if they were to start poking around, the Hutts would definitely find out about it. So Boba makes the decision to wait it out. So just then, one of the Gamorreans interrupts to announce that one of Boba's vassals has arrived. And this week, it's kind of funny because Fennec gets the city clerk shtick with the, does he have an appointment? The man's name is Lortha Peel. and he's a watermonger from the workers' district. Come to petition the new daimyo, and
Talking
of course,
about giving life to our talks about water taxes and things of
well,
that nature.
and
like
there you
bringing it
go.
right front and center that water is currency. On
Absolutely,
Tatooine.
it is. You cannot say the name Stephen Root without associating it with Milton from Office Space.
So good.
I mean, the man,
and that's how the week started, with all kinds of Milton memes and stuff.
Oh, I know. Yeah, exactly.
A great ride until they got hold of the other thing.
but I was told that I could broker water at a reasonable volume between the hours of 9 and 11.
Love it.
I want to talk a little bit more about him because there's a great little nuanced performance from him here in a couple seconds. But for anybody else who's not aware of, I mean, Stephen Root has this the man has a huge list of credits. I did not even try to list them all. Lots of film and television, of course. Like I say, Office Space, probably the one that everybody jumps to, but played Mildew in Dragon Riders of Berk, and most recently was the voice of Cringer in the new Masters of the Universe Revelation on Netflix. So cool. Glad to have him now part of the Star Wars universe. Mm-hmm. So Stephen Root's character, Lortha, goes on to say that no one respects you. And at that, 8D8 literally blows a circuit, yelling at him, "That's enough." But Boba allows him to continue. According to the Watermonger, the streets have become quite chaotic since Bib Fortuna's demise. I think that's kind of suggestive that it's been maybe a little bit more time between the ending of season 2 of The Mandalorian and the start of this show, because, as we saw at the end of The Mandalorian, he walks in, literally blasts him and dumps him out of the seat. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, how much time has passed for the word to get around that Bib's no longer around, and now the streets have decayed into a worse state of lawlessness? Yeah,
I mean, it could happen overnight.
I suppose it could.
Like words gets out fast. There's a nuance to the scene that's coming up with the Hutts and the big monster there.
Yeah,
I want to talk about, and it's kind of like that. It's kind of about the same thing.
Yeah. All right. So Boba casually tells the Watermonger that this is the first time he's heard of it, but Lortha keeps going on, and he lays it on thick, telling him that I'm insulted on your behalf at the disrespect that's been shown to you. Interrupting the Watermonger, Fennec thanks the man for his insight and tells him that they'll look into it. But Lortha isn't quite done yet. It turns out that a street gang has robbed him of a quantity of water. Doubling down on his patronage stick, the man says that this has never happened before under any of the other daimyos. And once again, he's insulted on Boba's behalf. He says that the gang has taken to body modification, replacing parts of themselves with droid parts to become more formidable, adding that he will double his tribute if Boba would rid the streets of their scourge. And this is where it gets interesting, because I can't recall. I want to talk about, the cyborg thing is going to come up repeatedly this episode, but is this the first time we've seen somebody have this kind of reaction? Because he's loathing of the idea that there are people out there that would want to alter their body like that.
Yeah, right.
It was never a thing back in the original. You lost a hand, you got a replacement.
Well, we've seen that with there's the example Anakin, with Luke Skywalker. Well, so wait, I didn't throw Anakin in there because there's the distinction here, and this is what I want to touch on, is there's a difference between having something done as a medical procedure because you needed it.
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker got a prosthetic hand because he needed it. Darth Vader got or Anakin Skywalker got a new body because he needed it to live. I want to talk about the idea of voluntary cyborgs in the Star Wars universe. And there's a couple out there. At the most basic level, you've got a guy like Lobot, who's basically got a computer strapped to his brain. General Grievous, full conversion. He's a bag of organs in a droid body.
Yeah.
And then Dengar, of course, who goes on to survive right up to and including the Rise of Skywalker.
That's right.
I
guess
never.
a lot of
Go
his
ahead.
uneasiness could be based in the fact that we've just gone through a clone war, and
Possibly.
the bad guys were the droids.
We're droids. Yeah.
Or, depending on your point of view, right? Certain point of view. But
Well, by now, what? Clone Wars is passed by 20,
At least, yeah.
25, 27 years.
He's an older character, so he's that.
He could have been a young kid. He could have
Right.
been a very young kid at the end of the war.
So, and that,
True.
there's a lot of things can be, you don't like what you like. You don't like
Yeah.
what you see yourself in others, or you don't, so there's a lot of that stuff. But I could see how somebody, just like Din Djarin is uneasy of droids in general, I could see somebody taking that to the next level. Why would you ever want to do that to your body?
Sure.
So that's a viable uneasiness for me.
Yeah. Well, that's fair enough. I just thought, what an interesting thing, because I don't think that Star Wars has really explored that before. I think it's like I said, it's such a nuanced thing from Steven's performance, but it really comes through like that.
Yeah.
There's definitely like you can tell on the look on his face just how much he abhors the idea of it. And I thought, well, that was interesting.
I think the concept is a bit foreign, though, because we have nothing that would technically improve us yet. I mean, we got...
Well, not to that level, no.
No, like we have nothing that'll increase our strength or make us faster, whatever.
Yeah,
but as soon as that's out there and available, it's going to go up.
Yeah, I mean, we already have the rate that technology, and I'm talking like real world technology, is advancing. We already have the jokes about, the Skynet jokes and the next what is it? They're basically saying that the technology is going to create a singularity, and
we got DARPA dogs in Star Wars. I mean, hey.
Yes, we do. Yeah. Thank you, Boston Dynamics, for putting your real robots in Star Wars.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving on then. Next, we get an upward panning shot of Mos Espa at night. The city center twinkles from artificial light, and the central tower is aglow with a red beacon.
I want to see that from directly above.
Yeah, I would like to see that too.
I want to know if there's like a symbol or something with those
the concentric rings. It kind of does look like there's something there, doesn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah. Down at street level, Boba, Fennec, and the two Gamorreans walk down an alley. And when the group rounds a corner, they spot their quarry at the opposite end of the street. A band of cybernetic augmented youth loiter around a burn barrel. As one of the youths drinks from a flask, Boba asks him, "Where did you get that water?" A young woman turns and nonchalantly replies, "We stole it." Boba tells them that stealing is a crime. But another youth, this time one of the young men, interrupts him, telling them that what the watermonger charges for water is a crime. After the gang tells him to essentially piss off, Boba informs them of who he is, and he will have order in his territory. But these kids don't care. They just see another crime boss that doesn't care about them, going so far as to question, why would the daimyo allow the watermonger to charge a month's wages for a week's worth of water when there are no wages to be had?
Sounds like an Unkar Plut situation.
It really does sound like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, we talked about this early at the beginning of the episode, just to get it over with. I mean, the mod culture, it's unmistakable here, especially with the scooters. I mean, you can see them kind of, well, not in this scene. You can kind of see them parked around the corner there. But anyway, just, so the mod culture, sort of a subculture of 1960s London, and it was a movement focused on music and fashion. And as we already said, I still can't get over how many people the double meaning, the modification, the cyberpunk thing was lost on them. But I thought it worked pretty well.
Even if he's going for like a slight nod to his Spy Kids stuff.
Oh yeah, which he could very well be doing that as well.
Yeah,
I've heard the analogy, like people calling it Teletubbies, but what's wrong with a nod to Voltron or a nod to the Power Rangers or something like more akin to that?
What are you talking about?
Right?
A nod to Voltron.
Right? What? How is that offensive to anybody that likes anything that's cool?
It's not. I think it's neat. Andy had said it. He's like, we're only one Vespa short of a Foreman Voltron here.
Right? Yeah. Put Boba on a Rancor and we got it.
There you go.
Absolutely. All right. So we only two of the mods, only two of them have speaking parts this week. And I want to talk about them for a second. We have Sophie Thatcher, who is our young lady, Now she plays in a series, like I said, she plays in a series called Yellow Jackets. She plays a character, Natalie. She was the younger version of Natalie, a role that she shares with Juliette Lewis. And the series is about a girls' high school soccer team that's involved in a plane crash and their survival in the wilderness over a period of 18 months. So kind of a Lord of the Flies vibe thing going on there. She also played young Regan for 2 episodes of the Exorcist television series. Of course, she shared that role with Gina Davis. Now, our other fellow here, Jordan Bolger, that's Cameron the bartender, as I said, from the Tom and Jerry movie, also plays Isaiah Jesus in Peaky Blinders, the British period crime drama based on a real-life gang of the same name. All right, so Boba asserts that they're in the workers' district and they should be working, but the young woman throws her arms up in frustration, exclaiming, "Look around, there is no work." So removing his helmet to look the gang in the eye, he tells them all, "Then you work for me." All right.
There's a thing here where he says, "You better fight better than you talk dank."
He does say that. Yeah,
so
yeah.
When we're saying dank ferric, we know what the dank part means now.
Now we do. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
All we need
Quit talking dank.
Yeah, that's great. That stuff is great. There's another one coming up too. Actually, it's this scene. He tells them to go get their gack.
Yes.
You guys know what that is? That's a crew term for it started with A New Hope back when it was Star Wars. It's a crew term for the greebles and the baubles and the junk that lies around the set and the things that make it look like it's an old immersed world. And he tells them to get their gack and come with them. And
all part
awesome.
of the world building.
Wicked.
Yeah. Well, just then the watermonger bursts onto the scene in a rage and he yells at the assemblage saying that they stole from me and you're just going to let them away with it? And Boba asks Lortho, what do they owe you? And when he says 1,300 credits, he orders Fennec to give him just 500 instead. When the man protests, insisting that they owe him the full 1,300, but Boba tells him, "I heard you the first time," adding, "Take the 500 and consider the matter resolved." Now, the gang members, and it's very subtle here, the gang members look on in awe, perhaps with a newfound respect for their new employer.
Right.
And as Boba goes to leave, he offers one more piece of advice to the watermonger, ordering him to lower his prices if he wants to continue doing business in his territory. If you don't like it, you can move to Mos Eisley.
Yeah.
Telling the gang to gather their gack and follow him, and they all turn to leave.
Wicked.
All right. So just another line there that suggests to us that Jabba's influence may not have been planetary, or it was and got busted up.
Yeah, that's probably more likely. See, because we did see the level of influence he had during the Clone Wars, where like Jedi would have to respond.
Sure.
Wings, so.
Yeah. I really like the whole Vespa thing. I mean, I've already said it many times, and when you roll it up against the whole idea of 1960s mod culture, when you know that there's a fashion component, I mean, look at those guys. You can't tell me that they don't just exude this stuff.
Sure, and there's a scene coming up that eclipses the fact that they even ride these bikes. Since when is Luke Skywalker his X-wing? Since when is Han Solo the Millennium Falcon?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Slave One. They're accessories.
They are, absolutely.
Yeah. Move forward.
All right, we finally get our title cards. Another one. I mean, these prologues, man, they're long.
But they're informative.
Oh, they sure are. All right, this next scene is really cool. We get a fade-in shot of the exterior of Boba's palace. A wart is sitting unflinching as a scurrier hops past. Suddenly alerted to something, the mouse-like creature begins to run away, but it is snatched up by a swooping creature that resembles a bat.
Yeah.
But in a full circle of life moment, the wart looses its tongue, ensnaring both the scurrier and what I believe to be a sand bat.
Yes.
There's always a bigger fish.
We talked about the warts already. They came up in the last episode when they startled one out of the sand. But scurriers first appeared in A New Hope in the special edition when Luke drove over a bunch of them in his land speeder. Well, he didn't run them over, but he passed over top of them and they kind of scattered. Yeah.
10 points.
So the Sandbat thing, this scene it's so fast.
It
I
is.
would need some real professional video editing software to get it slowed down anymore. But frame by framing it, that's the best I could come up with. At first, I thought it was a bird because of the screech. But then when you kind of get a better look at it, it definitely has leathery wings.
Yeah.
So I think it's a Sandbat, which were first mentioned back in the original Marvel run, number 17, back in 1977.
Oh,
And
nicely
the image here is actually out of the Star Wars Old Republic MMO. So
done. Nice.
There
Nice.
you go.
Somebody put this side by side with the Return of the Jedi scene, and the only difference, like even the tongue strikes at the same time.
yeah.
The difference is the burp is delayed in the new one by about 5 more seconds.
Well,
It's
and the
a little
fact that
longer burp.
it's eating two creatures at once, I think that's kind of cool.
Mouthful.
That as I was going through trying to clip these images, I actually got it to freeze up where the wart's mouth is still open and you can see the snout of the scurrier poking out. I'm like, oh, that's kind of grim. Maybe I don't want to go with that one. All right. Oh, I can't wait. I want to talk about this quite a bit, actually. Okay, we're going to move on now. Cutting to Boba's chambers, we see the Bactapod and Boba lying within. His eyes twitch, and we can see rain begin to hit the lid as the shot transitions to another dream sequence back on Kamino. So outside of young Boba's room, Slave One lifts off from a landing pad, and as the ship passes the window, the boy jumps out of bed and runs across his room, watching his father's ship as it pulls away from Topoka City. Placing his hand on the window, Boba stares as the ship climbs above the raging storm. This is the second time now that we've gotten this sequence, and it's a little longer this time.
Yeah.
Could it be that this is the time when Django left to assassinate?
I'm really racking my brain on this, because if one thing, this is the one thing that doesn't line up nicely like the other portions of the dreams do, because all the other dream stuff surrounding the Tuskens informs what's going on in the present. I mean, and that really is going to hit home here with this episode with the whole relationship to the Pikes.
Yeah.
But the dream sequences around, at first I thought the dream sequences like at the Geonosis arena and the Kamino stuff was just a way to tell us that he's still grieving the loss of his father, that I mean, it's kind of a joke, but the absentee parent thing has really, it's done a number on him. Like, think about it. The closest thing
to
he
illustrate that it's one of the foundations of his character.
Absolutely it is.
Right. It's like one of the pegs of his character that it stands on. So and so is the Tusken Raider thing now.
Yeah.
And so is
yes.
Right. So and I think it's sort of juxtaposing that the first peg he stood on, and then maybe the newest peg that he's standing on.
There is that too.
Gap, maybe.
Especially knowing what's about to happen to his new adoptive family. I mean, experiencing the loss of his father firsthand, being in the arena and witnessing that. And then now, as we're about to find out, as he rides up on the camp and kind of walks into that scene, like, yeah. But I have a question though. Is there something else going on with these childhood Boba shots? Are they setting up something more that is going to be reflected in the Mandoverse present that we're just not aware of yet? Because and the rumblings are out there and you can't avoid them, but the big one is there, are we going to get a tie-in to either Attack of the Clones? So are we going to get some kind of like, are we going to get a live action version of him, the helmet bomb thing, some of that indicating that he's going to pursue, the Mace Windu connection? Or the other one is, are we going to get, more with perhaps Taun We and the Kaminoans, who essentially were his caretaker every time Django left Kamino?
Mm-hmm.
Given what we know about the cloners through what happened in the Bad Batch, I mean, is there some connective tissue there that maybe they're building towards? Or
are we going to get something right out of left field and we're going to find out that he did know about Omega?
Well, there is that too. I mean, with it being a reuse and a longer version of a shot that we've already seen, in a week's time, could we see that scene extend even farther and he's not the only kid in that room?
Mhm.
I think it's a thematic device to remind us where he's grounded.
Yes, I think it's definitely that. I just question, is there something else there? And maybe, again, that's part of me. Maybe that's my transference, wanting something more. But don't we
So
all?
far, it's the only place we've gotten the Slave One.
It is the only
I want to see a
place.
starfighter battle. Come on.
Yes, I mean, you can't have Star Wars without the stars or the wars, and we've had very little of that. That was something I put up earlier on in my notes as something I wanted to talk about, and then I thought, no, Mandalorian already kind of blew that out of the water, but Star Wars, at least the films, have been sort of 3 set pieces, right? That's how they've done it. It's basically, in
on planet, on ship, and
in A New Hope, it was Tatooine was one environment, the Yavin rebel base was another environment, and then the space battle was the third environment. And then in Empire, it was Hoth, Dagobah, and
Death Star, and
Cloud City.
True.
Right, and then Jedi was Tatooine again, and then Endor, and then the fleet battle. So. But Mandalorian kind of blew that out of the water because, I mean, we're telling a much longer story. So the whole 3 environment thing kind of went out. But other than the dream sequences, we haven't been anywhere else in the Boba Fett series yet.
Kamino and Tatooine.
And only through dreams is what I'm getting at. Are we going to go anywhere else in season 1 of Boba Fett?
I think he's got enough to deal with.
Trying to set up the family.
Yep.
Okay. That's a fair assessment. All right.
Get your stuff in order at home before you go traipsing off world.
Definitely. That's fair enough. Okay. So, as the rain, what was I saying? As the rain hits the window of the young Boba Fett's room, the scene, oh my Lord. As the rain hits the window of young Boba's room, the scene transitions for a moment back to adult Boba, still sleeping in the back of the pod before settling on the newly minted Tusken Boba astride a bantha. Now, riding out of the camp, Boba gestures to virtually everyone in the camp as he departs on an important journey. Okay. Watching it the first time through, not knowing what was about to happen, I was like, oh, we're all buddies now. Yo, dude, see you later. I'll be back. Yeah, cool. Bye-bye. But on the rewatch, knowing what was happening, there's this huge, gut punch of oh my God, this is the last time that he's having any contact with any of these people. Oh,
never know.
Heartbreaking. Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit too, because that's another question for me. All right. After a long ride, Boba arrives at Mos Eisley. All right. So I just put this up here just for reference sake that according to the map of Tatooine from Star Wars Complete Locations, the 2016 version, Mos Espa and Mos Eisley are about 140 kilometers apart, which makes that a very serious ride on a bantha. Yeah. You're not doing that in one day.
Nope, no way.
Yeah. So, I mean, the average person can 30K a day if you're 30 or 40K a day if you're lucky. Mounted, maybe a little more.
In top shape with lots of water.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, the book Complete Locations, it's a reprint of the book of the same name from 2005, but it's been updated with new canon entries for all of the Disney era stuff. But they didn't change the map. All right. So, stopping for a moment, Boba asks a pair of Jawas where the Pikes conduct their business in town. And the Jawas chatter amongst themselves for a moment and then point down the street. As Boba rides further into town, we see a local placing a stormtrooper helmet on a Pike. Now, big visual cue here, and we talked about sort of timeline where things are maybe lining up. This almost certainly puts us right around the time of Mandalorian season 1, chapter 5,
the gunslinger.
Yeah. The episode in which Fennec is left for dead.
Yeah.
We get I was going to say here, we got your slide here, Andy. because as Mando pulls, or Mando, as Boba pulls away, we get this. We get a shot here of a very familiar mechanic, along with her 3 pit droids passing by on a lower street in the opposite direction.
Now she's not credited, so I don't know if it was actually A.B. Sedaris, but
It doesn't have to be. I mean, it could have been.
recognizable, so.
I mean, certainly, I had a good look at the face as good as I could, and it looked almost like digitally blurred.
Yeah.
So, here, put on this costume, walk that way.
Yeah.
Here's a wig. But it's great because it just informs us a little bit more about where things are, and now things are starting to line up, I guess.
Pull some strings together.
Yeah. Arriving at the Pike's low-lying office building, Boba dismounts and ties off his bantha. And there's another stroking the cat moment there.
Yeah.
Declaring to the 2 guards outside he has business inside, and they let him pass. Now, face to face with the Pike Syndicate representative for Tatooine, or at least Mos Eisley, the man acknowledges that protection arrangements are all part of doing business. Satisfied with that, Boba tells him that he'll take the payment and be on his way. But the Pike tells Boba that his superiors on Obadiah are unwilling to pay more than one party. Boba tells the man that they are one party and he's collecting on behalf of the Tuskens of the Dune Sea. But the Pike tells him that, well, the Kintan Striders have already collected the protection money for the same territory.
Oh, say
Boba
that
tells
again.
The Kintan Striders.
Oh, that sounds like it starts with a K.
It sure does.
Wicked.
Yeah. And so superficially, I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, but superficially, remember last week we were talking sort of about I went way on that rabbit hole thing with the clone and the Rancor battalion, all that. And you were right. I mean, this is just low level, just regular thugs, just a biker gang out there doing their thing. But I got a theory that I'm going to pull out here a little bit later on. So we're going to come back to that.
Cool.
So Boba tells the Pike that he doesn't have to pay that speeder gang because the Tuskens outnumber them, adding that the sands have belonged to the Tuskens since the oceans dried up. Not fazed in the least, the Pike tells Boba that the Syndicate is happy to do business with either party, but they are unwilling to be taken advantage of by paying the same protection money twice over. Boba tells the man that he will deal with the speeder gang and they will not hear from the Nikto gang again. All right. So I went back to last week's episode and I kind of played it back and forth, and I don't think it's the same guy that they told to walk. I think this is a different character.
Yeah,
Yes,
higher up on the chain anyway.
Yeah, and this gentleman is a veteran actor, Phil Lamar.
Back
man.
again.
Yeah, both in front of the camera and in the sound booth. Obviously, Phil Lamar rose to prominence through Mad TV, appearing in 112 episodes, of which he wrote 55 of them. And then, of course, Hermes from Futurama. And
Hermes Conrad.
yeah, and the Jon Stewart Green Lantern, which every time I hear Phil Lamar, it doesn't matter what he's doing, I hear the Green Lantern.
Most recently, though, Bad Batch, he was in there.
Who was he in the Bad Batch?
He was on the Twi'lek planet. He was.
Was he the uncle?
I believe so.
Was he Gobi?
Maybe.
Possibly.
Maybe.
He was in there, though.
Yeah.
He was the bad one.
You're definitely right. I can hear his voice now, and I'm just thinking, my Lord, who was he? Funny, I didn't make that connection. Okay. All right. Well, then. So riding out of Mos Eisley, Boba once again crosses the expansive Dune Sea. Pausing for a moment, Boba throws back the hood of his cloak to get a better look at a dune off in the distance. The music changes, and we get this huge audio cue that something ominous has happened while Boba spots a plume of smoke rising over the ridge.
That's never good.
So the whole musical thing here in this sequence is really cool because it's playing this like, it's almost like, at the end of, remember Incredible Hulk? And I'm talking like the 70s Incredible Hulk, Lonely Man. So like Lonely Man theme.
Yeah.
I get Lonely Man theme vibes off of this as he's riding across the desert, right?
Yeah,
but then he rolls up onto the dune with the smoke, and it changes and it becomes almost not sinister, but ominous. It just has this tonal change where you're like, uh-oh.
Does it still, I did not compare side by side, but does it not have like a similar tone to when Luke rolled up?
Oh,
On Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen?
come to think of it, I'm not sure.
Because that's
I want to say that they
visual
actually used.
style.
I want to say that they used Luke's theme, but they slowed it right down. But I could be wrong. Okay, dismounted from his bantha, Boba runs down the other side of the dune, staggering to a halt at the realization that it's too late. The Tusken camp that had just become his new home has been razed to the ground, and his new family has been massacred. Not a man, woman, child, or bantha has been left alive. And they make a point to now it's you got to look for it, but they make a point of pointing out that there is a wrecked speeder.
Yes. I got a theory.
To Indy, I have a theory too. I bet you we
Look
have
at
the
this.
same
There's
theory.
gaffy sticks everywhere. There's bantha tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that.
Well, yes, exactly. All right. So as the camera pulls back, the ominous chant now changes to something more melancholy. And as Boba surveys the massacre, several Tusken bodies are laying propped up against wooden posts. Outside the communal tent, the chief's body lay just a few feet away, and on the tent itself is clearly marked the double L, the symbol of the Kintan Striders. So, and this is where, take it on the nose, everybody, descriptive audio lady, who, by the way, I still say is very exquisite at the way she narrates this thing.
Man, it's great. Yeah.
She calls it a Huttese symbol. So kudos to you, Hank. You nailed it first time out. All right. With the sun setting, Boba sets about to collect the bodies, placing them on a ceremonial funeral pyre. All right. And
Luke-esque moment.
if this, and I can't believe that this, oh man, I can't even believe that this came up this week. People were like confused, thinking that he was burning his own gear.
No,
Did you catch anything on that?
I did not.
No.
I saw a thing and
If
I'm
I
like,
read that in
wait,
the headline, I
no,
would have get screwed.
no.
Well, if you paid attention during the first one where they were getting shot from the train,
Yeah.
that's what they did. They piled them up and
Yes, they funeral pyred them all.
I
That
did
was
read one
their-
article where they claimed that the child's stick was a piece of his stick. From
I
his
read
vision
that
quest.
too.
I'm like,
No.
are you not watching this at all?
Well,
are you?
fortunately, and the funny thing is that all those people that the people that were kind of the gatekeepers were gatekeeping are probably not fans of our show. But for those of you that are, I have a good little visual here for you, just so we can all put to rest exactly what got put on the fire and what belonged to whom.
Right.
We have the chief's ceremonial gaffy, we have the warriors badass gaffy, and the boys stick. So no, Boba did not burn his own gear. He ceremoniously disposed of. And this solidifies that whole family thing for me, right?
Yeah.
So not only are these the only, I shouldn't say the only, but these are the three characters that he had the most interaction with.
Right.
But again, like
The ones he gained the respect of.
absolutely. And I had said right from the beginning, I thought that these three were a family, and I still maintain that.
Yes.
If we never see, well, we know one of them is dead for sure. If we never see the other two ever again, I'll take it to my grave that they were a family.
Yeah.
I'm holding out hope.
Well, here it is, right? I get this. This is where I really struggle with it, because I have to say, this is probably the most emotionally intense piece of Star Wars I've ever watched. And I'm not going to lie, man, as a little, my allergies were really acting up that day.
Yeah. No, I get you.
And it really does, though. Oh, so
Because he stops on the kid's stick. Like, we don't know how
my
long he's
Lord.
been with him, but like that was the stick he was getting
Right,
beat in the head
right,
with when
right,
he got there.
I mean, if the lines can be blurred between the state of the city falling into lawlessness, then the lines can also be blurred with how long he actually spent with that tribe. There could be tons of off camera.
I always in my head keep going back to the end of Rebels and Dave Filoni's, and in conjunction, with the end of Rebels, the prologue of Rebels, and it in conjunction with the Ahsoka Tano episode of Mandalorian season 2, where he said, "Don't assume."
Don't assume that anything. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and
yeah,
so
for sure.
That just that little statement, I put that lens up all the time.
You kind of have to.
Right.
You kind of have to, because the lines are they're kind of blurred here on this one. Nothing is as clear as maybe you want it to be. But then does it really have to be? Because for storytelling purposes and for as plot devices go, I think everything's working just fine.
Right. Yeah.
Do we really need a 45-minute show of him going back to the desert?
Well,
those little water pods? No.
Right. And so here's where I struggle, because on one hand, I feel like the symbology of the sticks is all we need. And, you can say that, oh, it's the Disney era of Star Wars, but do we really need to see dead women and children?
No. You've already seen enough dead Tusken Raiders laying there and propped up against
to get
stuff.
the point. And the ceremonial burning, I think, is the message to take away that this is what's happened. But the optimist or the conspiracy theorist part of me goes, there's no bodies, there's still a chance. So I am holding a candle. No matter how dim it is, I have a little bitty, little tiny, weeny, mini candle that hopes beyond hope that when we have that final showdown with the Niktos, and boy, by the way, it's coming.
Right.
Could the warrior and or the boy be found alive?
Yeah, like he's jump ahead to the end of the episode. We're going to war.
Well, there
he's
you go.
Going to need warriors, like right there. So that's enough hope for me.
Fair enough. Okay, so as Boba leads his bantha away from the camp, the screen flashes and we're back in the Bacta-pod. Without completing the cycle or emptying the pod, the lid is tossed open, spilling the healing fluid all out onto the floor. And before Boba can even open his eyes, a pair of furry arms snatch the would-be crime lord from his slumber, tossing him across the room. And it's Black Chrysanthemum.
Oh, it's so good.
Come to play.
Awakening.
We didn't even have to wait 5 minutes for it.
No. We didn't touch on this last week, but Black Chrysanthemum, played by Carrie Jones. Carrie Jones has an amazing list of credits as a makeup artist, having participated in all 3 Walking Dead series, Lovecraft Country, The New Mutants, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Preacher, Legion, and a whole lot more.
Wow.
But at 6'7", he's a great candidate to play bigger characters. And so some of his on-screen appearances include the tracker Predator from Predators, plays Akor in the Orville, and he was the Scarecrow in Creepshow.
Now, is Akor the one on the far side there?
Yes, that's Akor on the right-hand side.
Just seems heavily influenced by Ludo.
Ludo.
Yeah.
Ludo sad.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody want to talk about the level or lack of security at the palace right now?
So, okay.
Gamorrean guards getting talking to.
Yes. Now, there's I got a lot. There's a lot going on in the scene.
Yeah, sure.
We're not way up in that tower that we thought we were in.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think.
Yeah. There's like he literally tackles them, and we'll get to it, but he literally tackles them. They roll down a flight of steps, and boom, they're in the throne room. One more little set of steps down a small hall. But we're only 1 level up, or maybe even 2 levels up from the throne. We're still inside because we know that we come through that chamber.
Yeah.
And we go down that winding set of steps, and we're in the throne room. We've walked that walk several times.
Yeah.
Where was I going though?
Security within the palace.
For me, so Black Chrysanthemum and Boba have both worked for Jabba time and time again.
Maybe they know their way around the building.
Yes,
True.
if anybody, his top 2 guys, or even his top 10 guys, probably know how to get into the palace unannounced.
Yeah.
Even if it's just to pick up a job and leave without the rabble knowing. So for me, that's him using inside knowledge. Absolutely, that's Boba covering his arse a little bit.
I don't know if I'm 100% settled on that they're not. There's a part of me that still wants to say that they're in the tower, because going back and watching the fight, when he tackles the 2 Gamorreans, it's a circular staircase, and there's a whole bunch of stairs that they don't even touch. Like there's a period of flight before they hit the stairs and then tumble in.
Yeah.
It could be just a set building thing, but I'm not 100% sure exactly where they are.
Because based on the original shot of Boba and Fennec overlooking,
I just assumed they were in the tower. Yeah,
fairly high up. Yeah.
If we stick to that, and I'm not saying that we have to, but if we stick to that, I just assume this goes back to the whole like Wookiees at least have retractable claws, and he just scaled the outside of the tower and came in through the window.
Oh, I mean, that's entirely possible.
Yeah,
it's probably the preferred bounty hunter's secret door, I would imagine.
And no rifle this time. No blaster weapons.
Yeah.
But they did go out of their way to put those knuckles on.
They sure did. We got a good look at those a couple times this week, actually.
So now, if I do have one little gripe, and again, it's Disney era Star Wars.
Sure.
And I mean, Din Djarin bled a little when we pulled his helmet off. And
yeah.
He was pretty banged up in there.
Yeah.
Boba takes a couple, and most notably the shot to the jaw with the spiky
yeah,
and doesn't spill a drop of blood.
He gets tossed across the room at least 3 times.
Is our man Boba like literally tougher than we think? Like,
or is he just full of formaldehyde and Bacta now? Like he just runs on the stuff.
Maybe. I like he's taken a few shots over the course of the 3 episodes now, and showed very few scuffs. If you follow, like
it could be the
skin.
Is he rolling with the punch?
Maybe this is the the whole take the helmet off and you take away the mystique. But if you don't let the man bleed, then you maintain an air of that, like as you say, he's a tough guy.
Right. Yeah. Like,
but is he Wookiee tough? Is he really Wookiee tough when ripping arms off of other beings?
Do the beats of the fight. Do
it. Well, we're gonna get there. Okay. So as I've named these rounds 1 through 6. Now technically it's 7 because tearing him out of the pod counts as the actual first round. But
it does ring the bell.
It does. Okay, round 1. Wet and disoriented, Boba tries to take Black Chrysanthemum down at the knees, but is easily picked up and tossed aside. Crashing into his armor stand, Boba tries to activate a missile launching wrist gauntlet. But as he turns to aim it, Chrysanthemum is on him and lays him out squarely with the electrified brass knuckles.
Oh, it's a crazy punch.
Grasping for his gaffy stick, Boba manages to land a pair of stunning blows, which allow him to get back to his feet. And with the Wookiee dazed for just a moment, Boba drives the hooked end into his back.
So it's a good thing he's covered in fur, otherwise you'd see some blood there.
Well, you would think anyway. Round 2. With the gaffy lodged in his back, Black Chrysanthemum takes a backhanded swing, sending Boba sprawling several feet away. Now that's the second time he's been, third time he's been lobbed around now.
Yeah.
As Boba tries to get back to his feet, Chrysanthemum hoists him off the floor, clenching him in a deadly bear hug. Fighting for his life, Boba lands several blows to the Wookiee's temples, trying to break his assailant's hold by forcing his head back. But Chrysanthemum, unwavered by the maneuver, bites his hand instead.
Yeah.
Unable to draw breath, Boba's counterattack stalls out and he begins to fade. Fortunately for him, help has arrived. He
dislocates a toe in this scene too.
I kind of thought that was really up there. Like, is that natural?
Yeah, he's acting the crap out of that being strangled by a Wookiee. So did this remind you of the original fight from the $6 Million Man series, if you're familiar with
Bigfoot? Yeah,
and just
the giant,
the slow motion stuff that Bigfoot was doing in those fights, just to make it look a little bit more elaborate. I had heavy sort of memories of that while I was watching.
Yeah, it's evocative of that stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so unable to draw breath, Boba's counterattack stalls out. He begins to fade. Fortunately for him, help has arrived in the form of Drash and the rest of the mods. And she quickly flicks open her vibro stiletto, stabbing Chrysanthemum in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Round 3. The mods quickly surround Chrysanthemum and they begin working him over with various weapons. A nameless blonde man ties up one of his arms with an electrified chain, while Drash goes in for another attack with her knife.
That first one, when she sticks him, she ducks his big backhand there.
She pulls a Neo with the back flip, or not a flip.
She's pretty deft at combat.
With the limbo.
Yeah.
Nameless blonde man ties up one of the arms with an electrified chain. Drash goes in for another attack with her knife, but the attack skips harmlessly off the Wookiee's chest armor. At the same time, Scad shoots the gladiator several times in the back with a small blaster pistol. But Chrysanthemum is a mountain of a Wookiee, and he shrugs off the blasts while simultaneously batting Scat aside with his free arm.
So there's a sound here when he's shooting at him with that little pea shooter.
Yep.
Now I know it's not a mighty blaster, but we hear this. I think it's a very familiar patang, patang,
Like,
patang kind of sound.
Like
And
Padme's?
I'm wondering if he hasn't got Beskar on.
Oh, you mean Chrysanthemum's armor?
Yes.
Maybe.
Oh,
Takes
you know,
those
that's a
shots to the
great.
shoulder.
No, you're right. He does. That does happen.
And there's like a patang, patang,
Yeah.
patang three times.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I-
whoa, maybe Beskar.
I just wrote it off to it, as you say, like holdout
Super
blaster,
tough,
very
crazy.
yeah, or just very weak,
Blaster.
underpowered weapon. But no, I like that as well. Maybe it's a combination of both. The fourth mod, a nameless woman, charges in with what appears to be some kind of hammer, swinging it at Chrysanthemum's midsection, but the blow does nothing, and he bats her to the ground as well. Round 4. Overpowering the mods, Chrysanthemum takes stock of the situation. Standing over the fallen youth, about to make his next attack, Boba is finally able to get back in the fight. Ripping his gaffy stick from the Wookiee's back, he drives the spear end into the back of Chrysanthemum's leg. Just then, the Gamorrean guards arrive, but before they can join the fight, Chrysanthemum charges, sending all 3 combatants tumbling down the stairs to the throne room below. Round 5. As the 2 Gamorreans struggle with the arboreal giant, one of them gets tossed across the observation grate in the throne room, but that's enough of an opening for the second to land a blow with his vibro axe. He draws back for a second strike, but the Wookiee reacts even faster and lays him out with a blow from the electro knuckles. Having recovered from the tumble across the grate, the first Gamorrean is back on his feet, but Chrysanthemum lunges at him, sinking his teeth deep into the guard's neck.
He's a fighter.
He is a biter. That's twice. He's Mike Tyson. Round 6. With both Gamorreans subdued, the Wookiee prowls forward to finish them off, but the mods burst into the throne room and quickly surround him again. From another room, Fennec rushes out to the throne, yelling at the mods, "Stay back!" Hitting the concealed button, she triggers the trapdoor, and Chrysanthemum drops, catching himself on the edge of the trapdoor one-handed. As the mods stand over the dangling Wookiee, Fennec draws the throwing knife from the buttstock of her rifle. Taking aim, she lands her shot right in the back of Chrysanthemum's hand, and he falls all the way into the empty Rancor pit below.
So now we know who she was throwing that in.
We do now, because that's right out of the marketing. Yeah. Little things too, like the angle, like she comes out from a room behind the throne, and the way that he's holding on to the front of that trapdoor, that knife never should have hit his hand the way that it did. But it's just one of those things where it's like, in the moment it works, even if the technical aspects of it don't. So funny little cinematography thing there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So where did I put it in here? Oh yeah, I'm going to talk about this here in a second here. All right. With Black Chrysanthemum safely squared away in the dungeon, all that's left is to collect and tend to the injured. Boba, having recovered enough now to join them in the throne room, takes in the scene, and he orders the Gamorrean to get his injured compatriot to the Bactopod. Fennec shoots a long sideways glance at Boba and shakes her head in a worrisome manner, while the mods stare down at the enraged Wookiee. So I want to talk about this for a second, because there's a level of how do you say it? Concern, care for ostensibly his henchmen. That, have we seen this kind of like care from a crime lord before?
No.
That's different.
Maybe he's going on the, treat them how he wants to be treated.
Oh, maybe. And touching back on what you were saying, Hank, about, is he just that tough? Like as I'm watching it, I'm like, the Wookiee nearly killed him, and his priority is for the guard and not himself.
Right.
Strange.
I mean, you could be a hell of a leader and still be a crime boss. Like, Stalin could lead a nation. It didn't mean he was a nice guy.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. Like, so that ties in with his respect thing. It also ties in with the fact that he's got 5 guys, and he might as well keep them all at highest hit
points. I was going to say he needs them all. Yeah, he needs everything he's got at this point.
He's not at a point where he can just start tossing them into the pit.
He doesn't have the retinue that Jabba did living in and around the palace that we saw in Jedi.
Yeah.
And if they're going to be loyal for loyalty's sake, you might as well throw a little bit back at them.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? All right, this is just a little thing. We'll talk about gripes and stuff, and I don't know if this is an intentional one. I want to talk about the floor for a second. There's an inconsistency with the grate here. I can overlook that there, from the top when you're looking down, like there's a solid panel underneath it, but it has this like style. The grates are like super stylized, and yet Chrysanthemum standing up, looking up at the throne room, is looking through like square bars.
So are there multiple moving ports?
Isn't this a callback to the continuity?
It could be. From
Jedi.
It may be.
There's a cut scene, right? You guys know about the cut scene where Luke leaps up into the air and grabs the
edge.
They actually even filmed it, and then the Jawas step in and they start, or the Gamorreans start poking his hands, and that's how he jumps down and lands in the Rancor's eye, and that's what blinds the Rancor later on in the scene. Right. But I thought that was a callback to the continuity error.
It could very well be
scene from Return of the Jedi.
Well, I'm glad you picked that one up, because I'm just like, wait a minute, that's just the weirdest thing.
Yeah, I'm sure that was on purpose, man.
All right. Sometime later, Boba and Fennec sit at a dining table, and it's laid out with several delicacies. Now, a pensive Boba stares at the table, not interested in eating. The R5 astromech from earlier in this episode rolls in with 2 more plates of food on a serving tray that's very reminiscent of the one that R2 wore in Return of the Jedi. Perturbed, Boba dismisses the droid, ordering it to assist with patrols. All right, so want to talk about the security thing one more time? So suddenly there's this real need. Our security has been challenged, and you task an astromech droid to security patrols.
Gotta be better at that, serving drinks at least.
Anybody want to guess that that's a repaint of the R5D4 model from Mandalorian?
Maybe.
Yeah,
I bet you it is.
Quite possible, yeah.
I bet you it is. We save money where we can, right? All right, so Fennec not wanting the food. What are we talking about here? Does not. Fennec not wanting the food to go to waste enjoys a leg of the roast beast in front of her and leans back in her chair, telling Boba that as the head of a family, that he should enjoy some of the trappings that come with it. All right, I want to talk about the table for a moment. The table, because this was a fun little dive. We've got a couple of interesting food items here. One is a roast Nuna. And it took me a while to figure that out, because I couldn't remember the name of the freaking thing. But we first saw these creatures in the Phantom Menace during the pod race scene. Jabba knocks one off of the railing. But then we saw them again in the Clone Wars. You remember who served this?
No.
Tup served one of these.
Nicely done.
In the episode when they find him. Yeah.
Wicked.
I know that the bowl it's very clearly octopus, but is there any chance that it could be a juvenile mamacore?
Maybe.
Do you know what I mean?
Delicacy, sure.
Yeah. All right.
Mamacore veal.
Well, that's what I wondered. So Boba looks across the table at Fennec, and he tells her that he needs to respond. She tries to reassure him that by imprisoning Black Chrysanthemum, he already has, and he should wait for them to show their hand. Boba counters that by waiting, it only gives the Hutts more opportunity to strike at him again. And just then, 8D8 interrupts the meal to announce that the Hutt twins are presently waiting outside, and they've brought a gift.
So does this mean he's got an active chef staff still going?
Presumably there's droid servants that are probably doing it somewhere off camera.
Droid? Well,
yeah.
I guess Futurama can say that droids can cook.
Well, I mean, I don't want to go as far as the
the essence of flavor,
or the Star Trek
Gamorreans.
The Gamorreans, yeah, really.
That's why they were taking so long to get up to the chamber.
I don't want to say we got replicators in Star Wars, but look at the bread. The bread in The Force Awakens. It was just add water and there's a fresh loaf of bread.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Where are we at here now? Show. Okay, gift. Outside, the Hutt twins atop their litter wait for Boba to grant them an audience. Now, the main gate lifts open, and he and Fennec walk out to meet them. The Hutts then tell Boba that they have come to apologize for sending Chrysanthemum to kill him, and they hope that their gift will serve as a restitution.
So here's my theory.
Yep.
They didn't come here to give them a gift. They came here assuming he was dead, got there, found out he was still alive, and went, here's the gift.
You're
Yeah.
here. Okay.
Because there's a line coming up that's telling where he's basically Boba says, Hutts want their enemies fighting.
That whole,
the fact
it would
that they're
benefit
leaving
them.
is a matter of inconvenience. I don't actually think they had planned to leave. I think
Oh,
they planned
see,
to
now
stay
that's-
and fight the Pikes, and that they were bringing their own Rancor to do it.
That's totally. See, now I like that, but then we get into that whole thing that the Rancor is untrained. So were they willing to put the time and effort into that?
Danny
Would they
Trejo
have the
stands
time?
in that character. I don't know what his name is yet. But,
I just
he
call him
stands in front of
the Rancor
and
Whisperer.
considers taking the blinders off so that he's the first human it imprints on.
Yep.
Watch that scene. He stands in
Yep.
position and considers it.
Yep.
And then he tells Boba, "No, I like your character."
I took that from the other position that it was a genuine gift, and that decision to train it was based on, I'm going to train it myself. And then the Hutts went, no, we're going to give it away as a gift. And he went, oh, and it was I was going to do that, but now it's yours. So either way works, but man, well, if the Hutts come back in any kind of force,
See,
maybe
kids, you see how we did that? We had two differences of opinions, and we didn't kill each other. See how we did
because
that?
I can't reach with this microphone. That's why. I'm just kidding, right?
All right.
Okay, perfect. Right. So I just want to say, I don't know if you can see it in here. I didn't realize that I had caught it. On the side of the litter,
The bucket.
he's still mopping himself with hujib.
Yeah, he's got a new hujib. Yeah.
Is it a new one, or is it?
Well,
Did
I
the
don't know.
same?
Maybe it jumped back in the bucket.
I was gonna say the one that he tossed, did it land in the bucket and we just didn't notice that?
Awesome.
So I thought,
Yeah. But he's still mopping with hujibs.
Great.
Okay, with the Hutt brother, when the Hutt brother gestures, a large repulsor sled hovers forward bearing a sedated Rancor. The Keeper brings the sled to a halt, and we can see that the beast has a nose ring and it is wearing blinders. And Boba says that if the Hutts will clear off Tatooine, he will consider it a truce. The Hutts agree, saying that they will leave, but it's for a different reason. They then inform Boba that they were both lied to, that Jabba's former territory was previously promised to another syndicate by the spineless mayor of Mos Espa, Mok Shaiz. As the Hutts prepare to leave, Chrysanthemum is brought outside, and Boba offers him back to the twins if they will renounce all claims to Jabba's legacy. The twins dismiss the gesture, saying that they're leaving, and they advise Boba do the same thing, claiming that Tatooine is a worthless rock, and he can sell the Wookiee back to the gladiators, as he's now their tribute to him. Nice little point, actually, I thought there. With that, the Hutts turn and leave, while Boba orders Chrysanthemum to be released.
There's
the
a
Wookiee-
moment here.
Yep.
He raises his eyebrow and gives him like a little cut eye.
Like,
And
what
I was
are you
like,
doing?
seriously impressed with the guy in the suits acting at that moment.
Yeah.
Like he lifts that eyebrow. It's actually, if I could freeze
It's almost a people's eyebrow.
it's awesome. It's really odd. Like, oh really?
Yeah. What?
And then maybe for me, maybe a drop ball if there's one. I thought for sure this is when we were going to get him on board
on Team
side.
Fett. Yeah.
But
yeah.
so maybe it's got to come back around. It's a big
I'm
character
not,
to have just dropped in there like that.
I'm not convinced that he's coming back on Team Fett. I think that this was purely the setup so we could have him show up in Obi-Wan down the road. Not saying that it won't happen, but I don't know. I think
as we've been on Tatooine this show, I really hope that we don't stay too landlocked with Obi-Wan. I hope that
we get off
push
world.
that a little bit.
Right.
The art that we've seen, the production art seems to suggest that we might be leaving Tatooine.
No, it does. It really does.
Stay on target, Hank.
With that, the Hutts. Oh, sorry, Andy. Go ahead.
everything's better with a Wookiee sidekick.
It really is. Somebody who can rip the limbs off of other people for you.
That's right.
With that, the Hutts turn and leave while Boba orders Chrysanthemum to be released. As the Wookiee stands there free of his binders, Boba reminds him it's all just business and sends him on his way with some advice. Take it from an ex-bounty hunter. Don't work for scug holes. It's not worth it.
Says
And
the
with
same
that,
thing he says to the Mastiff. No hard feelings.
yeah, pretty much.
The Mastiff.
And at that, the Wookiee runs off. We get a much clearer look at the litter this week, and boy, was I ever underestimating. That's actually 18 litter bearers carrying those two.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, it's like a dozen, right? No, it's like more like closer to 20. All right. As Chrysanthemum runs off, Boba and Fennec pause for a moment to weigh in on what has just happened. Fennec asks Boba if he believes what they told him to be true, and he tells her that he has no reason to believe them, that the Hutts would only benefit from having their enemies fight each other.
There you go.
With that, Fennec says that she'll arrange a meeting with the mayor. Down in the Rancor pit, the beast lays flat out on its stomach, resting its head on a forearm. Boba asks the Keeper, why does it lay like that? And he tells him that the Rancor is depressed. Astonishingly, Boba questions that a beast can even feel such things. And the Keeper tells him that Rancors are emotionally complex creatures. Oh, and by the way, so here it is. They fixed the floor grate. I don't know if you can see the shadow there. It's the proper pattern now.
Yeah, it is.
Of course, the Rancor Keeper is played by none other than veteran actor
Machete.
Dawe Trejo, who also happens to be Robert Rodriguez's second cousin.
Perfect.
Dawe Trejo made his first on-screen appearance in the film Runaway Train in 1985. He feels that he finally achieved legitimate actor status when he appeared in Blood In, Blood Out, and he's perhaps most remembered as Machete Cortez, same character in both the Spy Kids franchise and the Grindhouse films. But wouldn't you know it, he also showed up as a playable character in Call of Duty Black Ops 4. All right. Boba asks the Keeper, why is it wearing blinders? And he tells him that the Rancor is a calf, that it was bred from champions for fighting, and that he had saved it to train himself. And that's where I say, like, presumably that I'm going to train it for me as a fighter was before the Hutts decided to give it up. Because I just assume here that as much as the Rancor belonged to the Hutts, so did Dawe Trejo's character. Like they're a package deal.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, they didn't just hire him specifically for that.
No, and
it's
that's
like,
why I think that their decision to give them away was made at that moment.
Yeah. What does that say though about Danny's character? Because he doesn't really make any outward like, oh, you're just giving me
He
and
has
it
a
up.
moment too where he switches his spear to from one handed at his side to two hands, and
Yeah.
he's just the guy has that serious look. So he gives a look like I thought he might maybe try to stab him. Like,
Maybe take a swing at him.
like this was a trap. And
interesting.
Then this happens.
Yeah. All right. The Keeper goes on to tell Boba that the Rancor will imprint on the first human it lays eyes on.
Humans canon. That's canon now.
It is.
Yeah. English is canon now. Zippers are canon now.
That's right.
Okay, go.
And now that they have arrived at the palace, he will begin its training. Boba approaches the Rancor to pet it, and when he touches it, the creature pulls away from him slightly. But after a few strokes of his hand, the Rancor settles and even seems to enjoy the affection. Boba says that he intends to spend more time with the Rancor, and the Keeper encourages him to do so, citing that Rancors can become very loving. Surprised at that, Boba says that he thought they were only bred for fighting, but the Keeper corrects him, saying that's just what most people know them for. But Rancors actually form strong bonds with their owners, and that the witches of Dathomir were known to ride them through forest and fen. Okay, that's a big one. We can't go further without talking about that for a minute.
Right.
You want to go through it here? I got a slide for it here. So first comes up in the 1994 Dave Wolverton novel, The Courtship of Princess Leia. Hank, you said to me earlier this week that this is your first or your favorite non-Thrawn expanded universe novel.
It's got a special place in my heart.
I couldn't tell if you were being serious or not.
No, I was. Now you reminded me that Shadows was dope, but Dark Empire was a comic.
That's true.
But there's there's a scene here that it's got really nothing to do with the Rancor. And I remember like the idea that, so the one thing that you get from the novel is then there's crazy stuff like Isolde is a name of the, the idea that Han has to win Leia back by buying her a planet or winning her a planet. So there's some crazy stuff to the story.
I've got a bit of a synopsis here, and we can expand on it afterwards, but I'll just run through it quickly. Courtship of Princess Leia, 1994 a novel in which Princess Leia is considering marriage to Prince Isolde of the Hapes or the Hapes. I don't know how to say that.
Yeah.
The Hapes Consortium, a system of worlds in a region of space concealed by something called the Transitory Mists. No, I'm not making this up. In an effort to align them with the New Republic. Ever the jealous one, Han Solo, in a high-stakes game of sabacc, wins an uninhabited planet called, drumroll please, Dathomir. Thinking Dathomir would make a great gift to win Leia back, he whisks her off to the seemingly uninhabited world, only to discover that no, Dathomir is indeed inhabited by an alternate force-using culture called the Witches of Dathomir, who, yes, do ride Rancors through forest and fen.
So a few of the cool things that stood out to me when I wasn't exactly a kid. I was a grown man, but I was a younger man. And the idea that the Rancor
sure
from Jabba's palace was explicitly it was told to us in the novel that Rancor was a child, was an infant.
Yeah.
It was so, and that the ones that the witches rode in the novel
were
gigantic,
adults,
like 20 stories.
Yeah.
Another cool thing that's not really got anything to do with the Rancor. Luke dies in this novel. He falls off a mountain in a battle with. I don't think it's. I'd have to reread it. I don't think they name Mother Talzin, but it's a Dathomir witch, and she all ostensibly she kills him, and the Force resurrects him. I love Gandalf, and again, there's another Lord of the Rings reference. But
well, I mean,
he comes back so powerful, and then it's the reason he's so powerful in the rest of all of the Legends novels after that. He literally becomes the living embodiment of the light side
of the Force. Yeah.
It's such a So I guess it's got more sort of nostalgia. It comes from that time when we didn't have a ton.
Right. I mean, we're talking
books,
the Thrawn trilogy. I don't know. Was the Thrawn trilogy even complete by then? Because I think Heir to the Empire was what, 90, 91, 92?
Right. And I think we had maybe the first or even two of the Han Solo trilogy books. Those ones.
Not the Alan Dean Foster solo trilogy.
The newer one. Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Stack.
Okay.
Maybe.
I think you're right, actually. So it's an interesting thing though, because like you say, they were introduced in this novel, but like the Legends material on this stuff, I mean, there's tons of amazing artwork. I mean, you guys can take a look at it on your own. You can just look up any Deviant art page, Rancor, which is a Dathomir, and you'll get these images. But like crazy looking, like massive tusks growing, like really cool stuff. And then they pulled that forward into the Old Republic MMO, so you could actually ride Rancors in that MMO. So I mean, this may be in fact a little snapshot into what it may look like going forward, because as you say, we're going to be, the last line of the episode is then we'll be prepared. I suspect there will be some form of time jump, and the riding training will be complete. Yes.
And it's one of those things when we got the Witches of Dathomir in Clone Wars, it's that novel that's the reason I stood up in my seat when that first happened, because I knew we were that close to. And the way they describe them using the Force differently than the Jedi or the Sith that we'd ever experienced. They sing their spells, and the way they show that in Clone Wars. So that novel actually knocked me out for a lot of different reasons. There's some wacky stuff that goes on it, but then there's also the Yuuzhan Vong. So.
Oh, well, okay. So I'll give you that. I will take 10 courtships of Princess Leia over, one Yuuzhan Vong.
If anybody wants to complain about anything in Star Wars, everybody go read a Yuuzhan Vong novel and then come back and tell me that Boba Fett's garbage.
Yeah. Keep the Star Wars Borg out of it. Thank you very much. Okay. At the notion that Rancors can be ridden, Boba asserts that he wants to learn how to ride it. But the Rancor Whisperer is a little confused, and he says, "You what?" And then Boba enthusiastically reasserts, "I want to ride it." And then he adds this really interesting line where he says, I've ridden beasts 10 times its size.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think there's an old school Star Wars fan out there that didn't put this one together, that it's almost certainly a reference to the Pars Ichthyodont as seen in the holiday special. And of course, that animated segment of the holiday special is probably the most redeeming thing of the special, the high watermark, as it were.
We have no idea how big a mythosaur is either, and we got that
Well, this-
emblem on
yeah.
his shoulder there for a reason or two. So
That's right.
there's many different.
Could it be that Queel had said to Mando, "Your people rode the mythosaur," so
yeah, exactly.
you
That's
know,
what I'm getting at. Like, yeah.
and I think at some point we all kind of thought, is this what we're talking about? But it doesn't have the horns or the tusks.
No, it's
officially
a great nod, though. It's like it's there's so many. That's the thing. There's so many double meanings, triple meanings here.
Yeah.
The nuances.
But this creature, officially known as the Pars Ichthyodont, is what it's called.
It's big.
It is big, yeah. So as Boba continues to pet his new pet, the keeper walks out a few feet in front of the Rancor. He marks out a spot in the dirt with his staff, and he instructs Boba to stand on it. The keeper then moves to the Rancor, petting it for a moment before he slides off the blinders. The beast blinks a few times, staring at the blurred visage of its new master. Finally, the Rancor's vision clears, and Boba comes into focus. Cautiously, Boba approaches the Rancor with an outstretched hand. As he inches closer, he calls to it, "Easy, boy," then finally reaches out to pet it once again, first on the snout and then moving to the side of its head until he finally reaches a spot that the beast clearly seems to like as its eyelid grows heavy. And then we get this amazing comedic moment where 8D8 pops his head out from behind the thing. Excuse me. The tender moment is broken abruptly when 8D8 pokes his head out from behind the Rancor and announces that the mayor's office has responded to the meeting request.
So
As it turns out, yeah, go ahead.
Have you guys seen the picture of Tamora and Danny standing in front of the Rancor head?
Yes, I did. I saw that. Yeah.
Lauren jumped up when the scene was happening. She's like, "I think that Rancor is practical. I think the head is practical. I'm not sure about the arm under it, but I think it's practical." And I was like,
some of it is absolutely it is.
And then they launched that thing on Twitter, and she was
I saw that.
right, that the head was practical, but nothing else was.
I was quite impressed.
Man,
we were talking about, it's like when you physically put your hand on something, like if there's not something there to push back against it, it just doesn't come off as credible as a physical thing. And so the fact that they constructed a 1-to-1 Rancor head, I'm over the moon with that. So
yeah, man, dope.
Can we go in on the scale for a second?
The scale of the Rancor itself?
Yes. Because if this
sure we
is
can.
a calf.
Yep.
Why was Moochie so
much smaller?
Yeah, Moochie was an infant, if you will.
That's a good question.
Or was Moochie like a newborn?
Maybe,
yeah, and female, and she still wreaked havoc.
Yes.
Possibly the females are smaller.
Totally possible. And we don't know the gender of this one, do we?
Well, he calls it boy.
He calls it boy.
Well, he does say
He does
easy
say
boy. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Right.
That's true.
And then the other thing was Wrecker, the first human or person that Moochie
imprinted on.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So
That's great theory.
That's something that they could come back to.
but another thing that answers a question that Hutts are breeding Rancors.
Yeah, I guess so, really.
They have a breeding population somewhere.
This is our third
or whatever, but
30 seconds, guys. Keep going.
Yeah, fair enough. This is our third time now with Rancors associated with Hutts.
yeah.
Third time. Well, associated with Jabba's family.
Yeah.
Literally with his family.
Maybe they've cornered the market since,
It's entirely possible.
But
again, sort of this comedic moment though with 8D8, and it's like you see him pop out, and I'm like, the door that they walked in through.
yeah,
It's like, was he hiding behind the Rancor the whole time?
maybe.
I didn't see any other doors in the pit for him to come through, but
Well, there's got to be a big enough door to fit the Rancor through.
Well, there had to be for that too. I howled though when he popped out from around the corner. So the tender moment is abruptly broken as 8D8 pokes its head out from behind the Rancor to announce that the mayor's office has responded to the meeting request. Not surprisingly, it turns out that the mayor is predictably unavailable for at least the next 20 days. Boba, not impressed at that news, tells the Rancor Keeper to feed the beast a full Ronto carcass, and then leaves the droid saying that they won't be waiting for an appointment. You know what? It was almost a throwaway line to me. I was like, oh, if Ronto, okay. Well, I mean, I think we're all pretty familiar with what they are, but I took a little bit of time to dive in on this one, and I came up with some stuff that I didn't know before. So Rontos were created for the 1997 special edition as a domesticated pack animal, originally conceived by artist Ty Ruben Ellingson. Now, his work includes concept art for Pacific Rim, Priest, Battle Los Angeles, Trinity, Blade Trinity, and Spawn, and a whole bunch of other ones. But then he based his artwork on rhinos, elephants, and dinosaurs. But here's the part that really killed me. And now that I know it, I cannot unsee it. The animation asset for the Ronto is a modified reuse of the Brachiosaurus model from Jurassic Park. And now I can't not see it. I'm like, yep, it's totally there.
Nice.
So that brings up the question, because is Ronto... is it a food animal or is it a pack animal? Well, it turns out that apparently it's both, because even now it is served at a restaurant, the restaurant Ronto Roasters. This is the restaurant at the Black Spire Outpost on Batuu. And for those of you who are not well versed, that is a restaurant at the Galaxy's Edge theme park. So
also, he says grab a Ronto carcass from the larder.
Yeah.
He's got a huge storehouse of Ronto.
Yeah.
Or presumably
and other stuff.
Need, right?
The slaughterhouse district of
there's
Mos
more
Espa.
stuff going on.
What's
in that castle and that palace, I think.
What's interesting is, as you look at the menu here, it's like, oh yeah, okay, so there's two Ronto offerings, but there's also Nuna on the menu, which is another food item that we just saw. And of course, it's going to come up later on this episode. We can have ourselves some Meilurun juice.
Oh, perfect.
Not freshly squeezed like the Major Domo, but or maybe it is. I don't know. All right. On the streets of Mos Espa, Boba, Fennec, and the mods approach the city hall. As Boba and Fennec climb the stairs to the front door, the mods fan out on their speeders to cover the front door. As Boba and Fennec approach the concierge desk, the mayor's major domo spots them and appears quite nervous. Boba demands to see the mayor, but the major domo once again tries to defuse the situation, proclaiming that the mayor's schedule is complicated. At that, Fennec steps closer to the desk, telling the man to choose his next words carefully as she flips back her skirt, revealing a blaster pistol on her right hip. And oh boy, is that something, because that is a very, very specific blaster pistol in the form of a Blast Tech DL-44 heavy blaster pistol. Probably the most famous blaster pistol in all of Star Wars, to be honest with you.
So good.
So Fennec, she's sporting the Han Solo blaster, originally made from a German Mauser C96. The C96 was in production from 1896 to 1937. There are several versions of this across the franchise. Really, there's two that we see an awful lot. One is the regular one that they call, and the other one is what they call the Greedo Killer.
Right.
The Greedo Killer is literally the one that he pulled on Greedo in the bar, which is different than what he carries throughout the rest of the trilogy.
Luke has a DL-44 in Empire.
It's the Greedo Killer, or sorry, not the Greedo Killer. There were so few props for Star Wars that they just kept reusing them. And so things got repainted, they got reused, they got new modifications added to them. Like you can see along the bottom row there, like the Empire Strikes Back one, the Return of the Jedi one, and the Empire Strikes Back with Luke. They all have the same scope that's on the Stormtrooper rifle.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, yeah, cool use and reuse of props, but yeah, definitely. Like I say, it's probably the most famous, most iconic weapon. One other than lightsabers, it's one of the most iconic weapons in Star Wars. Okay, with the urgency of the situation made clear, the major domo suddenly realizes that he can move some appointments around to accommodate Boba. He then turns to enter the mayor's chambers, and as he does, the door slides shut and the panel indicator changes from green to red as the door is locked from the inside.
I love the beat here, though. Did he just lock the door?
Seeing the locked door panel, Boba and Fennec know something is up and they rush to get the door open. But the controls are frozen and Fennec has to use the throwing knife from her rifle to break it open. Hot wiring the door, the two rush inside only to find that the mayor's office has been deserted. Neither he nor the major domo are anywhere to be seen. And then the chase is on.
So there's definitely a back door in there.
Oh, there has to be. I mean, surely, we said it before, greasy politician. He's got a secret door somewhere in there. I'm sure.
That's
And
right.
she didn't just blast the panel.
No, she hotwired it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
You
Return of the
gotta
Jedi
assume-
did.
If he went one way, the mayor probably went the other way.
Or the mayor was never in there to begin with.
Well,
He's
that's
been
true.
gone
You
for a
couldn't
while.
You know,
literally
I don't
wait for
know,
that
like
20 days, yeah.
especially with the the revelation at the end of him working with the Pikes, right?
That's
Maybe he
right.
just wasn't there.
Yeah.
No, that's true. One thing's for sure, everybody loved this scene.
This whole sequence was the most talked about thing all week. In fact, people are still talking about it because
Yeah,
here we
we're
are
good.
right now.
Yeah, Russia's about to invade Ukraine, and nobody could talk about that.
No, yeah, that's so true.
It's very true. Yeah. But the Vespas are different colors.
Go Power Rangers.
Rushing outside of City Hall, Boba and Fennec spot the major domo making a run for it in a luxury speeder, which looks remarkably an awful lot like the speeder that Han jacked in Solo, possibly redressed and repainted.
Now, did you guys see the everyone's favorite part was a shot from behind of the major domo?
Oh, I know, when
It
an
looks
ass
like
was driving.
an ass was driving.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
With the two Leku head tails hanging down and just the way that his head wraps, that they do look like
Yeah.
somebody bent over.
Mhm.
Oh, it's funny.
Some fancy driving there.
Fennec orders the mods to give chase, and they tear off in pursuit. A protocol droid as blustery as C-3PO is caught off guard as the speeders fly past, narrowly avoiding it.
But he's sporting another Lord of the Rings nod, but he's got like almost a white handprint on
Pretty
his face.
much, yeah.
It actually carries down half his torso. I noticed that.
There-
He's got a paint scheme on him. Yeah.
There's a in the credits, there's something referred to as a traffic control droid, and I wondered if that was maybe it.
Maybe.
But
That's
I mean,
kinda cool.
the attitude of the oh my, it was literally a C-3PO moment. I'm like, it's a little not too confident for traffic control.
I'm not used to speeding chases.
Maybe they're not used to was the complaint the low speed chase.
Right. Yeah.
As the chase continues, the Twi'lek careens his speeder recklessly down the narrow streets. At one point, he sideswipes a repulsor car, toppling it and its astromech pilot. Rounding a corner, a pit droid collapses itself just in time to avoid being struck. Passing through a fruit stand, the speeder then rounds a corner. Drash and Scad exchange glances, and the mods split into two groups. Where am I here? There we go. As the chase goes on, the major domo finds himself on narrower streets and can't avoid hitting the scaffolding on either side. At one point, he strikes a water tower and it falls, but Drash is able to gun it over the barrels while Scad slides his speeder under the falling tower.
Just think how much he just wasted there.
The water,
Oh,
not as much that came out of as what came out of the train last week.
true.
When the other two mods finally rejoin the group, Scad uses his bionic leg to kick and damage one of the engines, while the other guy uses a cybernetic plasma welder to cut a gash on the other engine. Desperate to make his escape, the major domo tries to run Scad off the road, but the mod expertly pilots his speeder up the side of a building and safely back down to the road.
Awesome.
Swerving at the other mod, he's forced to get out of the way, and in doing so, rides right into the path of two men carrying a large piece of art.
Much more interesting than a pane of glass.
Well, there is that. The
How
other
is
thing
nobody
here,
just talking about that, right?
I don't know why they're not.
They
The
should
other
be.
thing is, I don't know if it's really, it might not be apparent in our slide. The large bald man carrying the artwork, episode 1, season 1, The Mandalorian. It's you, Mando.
Oh, really?
No.
Does it not look like him?
A little bit. Maybe he's got more legitimate work now.
Have to go back and watch it again. I mean, it's
Yeah, I
probably
see
not
that
meant to be
picture.
the same character, but it sure does look like the same actor.
Nice.
Yeah.
Isn't that on the ice planet though?
It is on the ice planet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got sick of being
Notice
cold.
Luke is missing from this image.
Absolutely. So, I mean, this is original concept artwork from Ralph McQuarrie, and it is Jabba's palace. So there's a better look at him now. The guy on the left-hand side, like it may not be the same guy, but man, it's awfully close.
Boba's in this too, isn't that?
So that's the other thing. Yeah, Boba is in the scene. So is Lando, for that matter.
Yeah.
So now there's an in-universe, reason for this thing to exist. That somebody conceivably has commissioned this.
A portrait of Jabba.
A portrait of Jabba.
And you'll notice in the background there is a spit.
Yes, the barbecue that again, nobody seemed to remember.
Yo,
It's been there the whole time, folks. That's
Right
okay.
from concept.
I didn't know either. All right.
Max
So-
Rebo's in there.
Yes, he is. Unfortunately for the mod, he's right in the path of an outdoor cafe table and he tumbles over it, effectively taking him out of the chase. With just 3 mods remaining, the Twi'lek continues to push his speeder hard. An unsuspecting rickshaw droid with 2 Bith passengers pulls out into the intersection. Rickshaw droid, we actually saw that back in Attack of the Clones when Padme and Anakin rode in one right here in Mos Espa. Yeah.
And he guns it.
With almost no time to react, the droid guns it, but the Major Domo speeder glances off of it, sending it spinning. Fortunately, the Bith appear to be unharmed. Drash, seeing an opportunity, boldly drives her speeder up a long staircase to a rooftop. Catching up to the land speeder below, Drash cranks the throttle and jumps off the roof. Landing on the speeder, she sends it careening into a spin right through an outdoor farmer's market, smashing through all manner of fruits and vegetables, including a giant cart of Melu runs.
I cheered for a few.
I did too.
I cheered for a fruit.
The speeder finally comes to a halt up against a wall and it stalls out. Melu runs were the fruit that was introduced in Star Wars Rebels back in 2014 and is quite often the butt of many, many jokes in that series, as both Ezra and Zeb both really like to play fight over them.
This is Lieutenant Meluron.
Melu run, yes.
Where he's imitating different Imperial officers, but using the name Meluron.
Unable to restart his speeder.
He's not giving up.
No, he's
crashed
still
into
trying.
it like
Yeah.
You know?
He's still trying to get it to start. Unable to restart the speeder, Boba drops in on his jetpack and plainly asks the Twi'lek, where is he? Defeated, the Major Domo finally drops the charade and tells Boba that the mayor is gone, and quite frankly, he's working with the Pikes. Okay. No, I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it for later because I'm going to save it for the post-show kind of wrap up here. Moving on with the plot, at the starport, a large starliner comes in for a landing, while the second one, already on the ground, debarks a number of passengers. Among them are at least a dozen Pikes. So I want to talk about the starliner here for a second, because at first I thought it bore a striking resemblance, at least in the general layout, to the Rebel transport, the Gallifrey, the GR-75. The general layout with the engine stacked up at the back, the long kind of sausage, I don't know what you call that, fish looking thing.
And we've certainly seen, it looks like it might have been a calamari vessel.
Almost, but I mean, at the same time as it comes more into view, I mean, it definitely has all of the trappings of like the what we would call the Carillion design,
Right.
like the Millennium Falcon, the YT-2400, the Outrider, which was canonized back in the special edition of Star Wars.
See, and you know from the games as well as I do that those are all modular ships, that they were designed to be integrated into one another.
That's right. That they could be, they're quite literally the Honda Civic of Star Wars.
Right.
You know, a YT-1300 is what endlessly modifiable.
And we've seen that goes anti, like there's civilian
and military applications,
and military versions of these vehicles. So
that's
absolutely.
right. But then as I'm looking around and I'm really looking at, especially the side, the profile of that ship, I couldn't help it. Like when you put it up against a shot of the Millennium Falcon like this, looking at the Falcon from the back, it's almost like whoever designed this was staring at the Falcon from the back end and said, "Oh, I can make a new ship out of that."
That would
I
not
think there
shock
was a
me at
super
all.
blurry version of snap of this from the trailer.
Well,
And
that's
a lot of
just
people
it.
were thinking that might have
Is
been
that the Falcon?
Yeah,
Especially
yeah,
with the
the
giant
YT.
Look at the radar dish on top and look at in the shot where it is
Right,
on the
yeah.
left-hand side. It just like, could that be the Falcon from the back end? It kind of has that look.
It does,
So
definitely.
kudos to whoever designed the ship. I love it. And really, this is what, the second time we've actually seen civilian ships in Star. Well, that's not true. Technically,
In the
99% of the rebel fleet was all civilians,
Civilian
but
ships.
yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of
It
the
was for their
prequels
intended
had,
purpose.
the Naboo cruisers and the ships of royalty. Although they could
Right,
fight, they
right,
were
right, right.
definitely meant to be sort of luxury.
Yeah. Interesting though, just seeing like, yeah, that it's not no military application here whatsoever, just strictly passenger liner.
People mover.
Right. Okay, so Scad sits nearby on his. Oh, I should go back up to that shot there. Scad sits nearby on his speeder, watching it from the rearview mirror. After he's seen enough, he pulls away. Stopping at a hollow booth in an alleyway, he does a double take to make sure that no one is watching him before he makes a phone call. Back at the palace, Boba and Fennec receive the call, and Scad tells them that he's sure it's the Pikes and there's at least a dozen of them. Fennec turns to Boba and she tells him that this is just the first wave. She pauses then for a moment before adding, "They're going to war." Boba takes it all in for a minute and then he replies, "Then we'll be ready." Cut to black. That is the end of our episode.
So people were angry over Vespas, but
Yeah.
they weren't angry at the fact that Star Wars still has payphones.
I mean, I don't.
That's true.
I mean, we had Rancors, we had Danny Trejo, we had.
Yeah.
We're getting into the we got
There is so
Black
much in this
Chrysanthemum
episode.
attack. We got the new one, like something has spooked the huts, and we're so close to Crimson Dawn.
Yeah.
Fellas, that
Yeah.
I'm so adamant that I'm right about that. And all of those, the movie, the Witches of Dathomir reference, all these things, and all people can focus on is this. I don't.
Color of the scooter.
It's so self-referential. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, the show has been extremely self-referential, and that has been a treasure trove of Easter eggs and like little things that, like you say, make you stand up and squeal at your TV. Like you're just so happy to see this stuff.
Man. Yeah.
Yes, it was a short episode, but it didn't feel short. You were given so much information in this one.
No,
To expand on the lore of the Rancor.
Yeah.
Yep.
That alone.
I don't know if anybody else has watched all three, but they flow so well into one another too.
They do. They really do.
Are all one big piece.
Yep. I think if you took, and I'm sure somebody out there is already working on this, if you fan edited all of the Tusken pieces together into one cohesive narrative and just watched that, it works.
Yeah, there's some
almost as much as if you took the present day stuff, you could put all that together and it would be okay to watch too, I think.
Chances are we're going to get to a point where you could actually cut in the Mandalorian stuff as well.
We're on the verge of that right now with the appearance of Peli Motto and the pit droids.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of, again, that self-referential Pike stormtrooper helmets on a Pike sequence.
That's right.
Almost certainly, right now that kid and Din Djarin are hunting down Fennec Shand.
Yeah. Or at the cantina,
somewhere
in that wheelhouse.
Just prior to, yeah.
And I think you're going to get
so
the other
close.
side of Boba rescuing.
Oh, we
Fennec.
have to. I think that's pivotal, like you said, Andy.
That'll introduce us to the guy doing the mods.
Sure,
you might get a little bit of Cobb Vanth in terms of maybe just him finding out about Cobb Vanth. You might
where's my armor?
Walk by or drive by
Yeah.
a speeder or something.
Yeah.
But I'm over the moon, man.
Me too.
I can't stress enough that there was a decade and a bit where we didn't have anything, and that anything would have been good enough. And when people are decrying quality stuff, I really don't know what to do. It makes me defensive, and I guess maybe I overstepped my bounds a couple times this weekend. And if I offended anybody, and if anybody I offended is watching this, which is highly unlikely, I'm really sorry, man. But I use the term real fan, and I feel that way because I feel like, and I said it before after the first episode, if you didn't like him at his worst, you don't deserve him at his best.
At his best, yeah.
And this is a long haul. We've never ever been disappointed by anything Filoni and Favreau have given us in terms of the Star Wars world. All right, and I think that we have to trust that they know what they're doing.
If I could summarize it sort of in what I saw a meme, Andy, I think you sent it over.
Yeah.
And it's a great summary of like the first panel is "This isn't my Boba Fett," and it's got a picture of Tamura in the re-armored paint scheme with the helmet off, and then the bottom panel is "My Boba Fett," and it's Boba crashing into the side of the sail barge, as he's about to fall into the Sarlacc.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, how can you be upset about just
making him more of a badass?
Yeah.
More
6
of a
minutes, 23 seconds, 4 lines of dialogue.
4 lines of dialogue.
What part of that? What part of put Captain Solo in the cargo hold makes him the most badass character ever to exist?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, here it is.
In the comics, he's like Bruce Willis. He scrapes by fist fights by the skin of his teeth.
Sure.
He's got more in kin with Longshot from the X-Men than he does with Dog the Bounty Hunter, if you want.
Yeah.
He's like he's your everyman, although he doesn't seem to bleed. Maybe that's his, but he really is more complex, and we have to allow him and allow the writers and the fans to be complex. Like I heard the most ridiculous things this week. Like that third episode was so bad. That's the reason Robert Rodriguez doing any more episodes till the finale. Like these things weren't filmed a year ago, written the year before that. Like that their complaints have weight and that they can change what's about to happen next.
Right. No, I agree with you.
Check.
Okay, so I've got a theory, and this dives into the past informing the future. Here we go. I think that the Pikes are behind the Kintan Striders slaughtering the Tuskens, and that's a retaliation move for the train heist.
Yeah,
and I think it makes sense because if that they weren't gonna go not like, because Boba even says he's like, I have to respond. Well, the Pikes had to respond. You just knocked off one of our spice trains. That's big money, and essentially going back to the old trope of sand people are savages, they're not going to let that go. So I think rather than get their own hands dirty, it's easy enough to throw some credits or whatever, or at least, in the make it look like they did it.
That's right.
Because if Boba goes and deals with the Striders, which he is going to, by the way, there is no question of that now. Yeah. So for anybody out there who thinks that this show is making Boba Fett a hero, there's a whole lot of killing about to happen, and I'm doubling down on that.
Yeah, some serious stuff.
If he goes out and takes care of them, good. That's one less thing the Pikes have to worry about.
Yeah,
problem solved. And then they get to wasn't us. And then the other side of that is, and we know that doesn't happen, but let's say that he was to go out there and he gets killed in the process. Once again, for the Pikes, one less thing we got to worry about.
Right. And it's exactly what they say about the Hutts. It's
let their enemies fight each other.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's in their best interest to have the chaos to settle in that vacuum. I completely agree with you. I think, in fact, that so many waves have been made in this small little backwater planet that we focused on so much in the entirety of all of Star Wars.
Yep.
That the attention, of some big players has been garnered.
Has there been enough attention drawn to get the nascent New Republic government involved?
I maybe, but I would say certainly.
Yeah.
I would say certainly the Remnant Empire. Kicking their head around here, and certainly, and I can't stress it enough, Crimson Dawn.
I think so as well. I'm just like, I still haven't quite figured out. I don't have a clear picture of how the Crimson Dawn is going to come on the scene, whether they're still associated with the Pikes or not, or whether, they're just going to make a play independently and say, no, you're not getting it. We are. I do think that they're coming in. I think it's an inevitability, but I also think that going to touch on that last line, the whole "will be ready" thing. I actually think that because the big complaint was the other meme this week that came out was what we wanted, and they showed the scene from Empire with all the bounty hunters lined up,
Right.
and then the bottom panel was what we got, and it was the two of them with all of the mods.
Right.
And I thought, well, you guys are just like, can you not just like sit down and be quiet for a hot minute? Like the show's not over yet. They're about to go to war. And Boba Fett says he's not a bounty hunter anymore, but let's not forget that he was a bounty hunter for most of his adult life.
So
Right.
he's got connections.
Well, this is what I said. Like that, I feel like the line "the will be ready" means that he is going to call in every freaking favor that's ever been owed to him,
Right.
and we're going to get a smorgasbord of bounty hunter cameos in the next couple of
And it's
episodes.
happened twice now. Every time someone's opened their yap about wanting something and why don't we have this, it's literally been the next episode.
It's been spoon fed to you.
Right. Like people can't just, have the emotional intelligence to wait.
No, I hear you.
And let's judge the whole series after all 7 episodes have been there, and after we can digest the entire story, because
I can't wait to sit back and be able to watch all 7 episodes continuously.
If you judge a book by its cover or the first 3 chapters, you're never going to get through the book.
Right.
And that's silly. Like these guys know what they're doing, and they're there to entertain us. And like that's a blessed thing. Like man, like doing this with you guys and getting to watch the show every week. It's like,
yep.
It's all those things. It's everything I wanted since I was 10 years old. And I mean, I've been waiting a long time for it. So I'm super stoked. I'm super happy. I don't understand why people are so angry.
I still stick with everything as we call it now, the Filoni-verse or the Mando-verse, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I've said it before. I will say it again. I do think that these shows in concert are serving to recontextualize the sequel trilogy while still giving us a healthy dose of classic Star Wars elements. And
did you guys hear the 2 rumors this week too? We'll end off maybe with that. There was a tweet by Ming Wen that was congratulating
Katie Sackhoff.
And congratulations, girl, and hashtag Bo-Katan, hashtag blah blah blah.
And then so it was almost immediately deleted.
So did we just get a little leaky poo of either her she's either coming soon, or most people are speculating that maybe they've replaced the Rangers of the New Republic with a Bo-Katan show.
I wondered if that's kind of the way that it's going to go.
She's definitely a leading actor. She definitely, she's carried several sci-fi franchises.
That's right.
And carried them well.
Yep.
100%. And did we see that that Knights of Ren trailer?
I did see that, and now I've looked at it a couple of times.
Stuff, man.
What do you think? Have you seen it, Andy?
I have seen it.
Yeah. To me, it looks like Game Engine.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you on that.
Modern,
I don't think
really slick Game Engine.
It looks super polished, but I mean, you put it up against like a real, and I'm not saying that it's not real, but when you put it up against a live action big budget film trailer,
right?
There's something not there. It just doesn't look.
Or whatever. Yeah. But there's also it's, and in my opinion, it's on purpose to blend it a little,
misdirection or
to make it seem more realistic, and that's the throw that Disney Plus at the end of it, that Lucasfilm at the beginning, and then to darken it so that it's almost that movie theater quality, and then to skew the image and have the corner of the screen cut off like you're sitting in a theater or a screening room, and I think that's all on purpose to add to the illusion. But I'm sure it's leaked game footage, and somebody has tried to turn it into maybe even
film
misdirect.
Trailer,
Perhaps even a misdirect. It was dope, though. If you haven't
seen it, it's definitely interesting. Yeah,
a Sith jumps out of a TIE fighter onto the back of an X-wing, cuts the canopy open, and after the crash, stands up out of the wreckage. Lights two lightsabers. It's dope looking.
And the Knights of Ren have just had a pretty successful run in the Marvel run. So, I mean, certainly that's a criticism of the sequel trilogy that they were hyped up and underutilized. So, I'd be down to see something more about them. Maybe tie them in with the Witches of Dathomir. All right. Any more before we sign off for the night?
can't wait for next week because I just want to sift through all the negative comments for all weekend. That's what I want to do with my life.
More Rancor.
Yeah.
More
I mean,
Rancor.
more Rancor, the beast, not the emotion.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, more
Do we
Vespas.
Do we think the HasLab thing would have done better?
Oh, that's a
after
good
this
that's a
episode?
good question. Okay, so one last question, and it came up in one of the one of the YouTubers I follow who's works in the toy industry for a long time, had posited the question: would the HasLab Rancor have been funded if the campaign had been going on during the time of episode 3 when we got the reveal that there's a new Rancor on the scene?
It's
Maybe.
a nice idea, but I honestly think that this vitriol would have washed it out.
Probably.
You know, honestly, like I mean, if I'd like to see what some of the other, you know, one of the things that bothered me the most, and I didn't even click on the video, and I it's been a minute since I've clicked on Theory's
Yeah.
videos.
Yeah.
And Theory, if you're ever watching us, well, I used to watch you a lot, bro, and I don't know what's going on lately. But he
Yeah.
literally put in the title of his review of it in brackets and all caps.
Yep.
Didn't like it.
Oh, interesting.
Like so when people are reading your clickbait, you know, your titles and
Title.
stuff,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
already telling them your opinion, you're already informing them, you're already giving them their opinion, your loyal followers, and that's not cool, man. I don't think that's cool.
That's a whole other conversation that we can have offline about how to title your videos, because I have some pretty strong thoughts on that as well. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about the Book of Boba Fett. We've got we're not even 50% of the way through there, folks. We got four more coming up.
Yep.
And man, I'm super excited. We got the Dave Filoni directed episode coming up here in a couple of weeks, and I think that's I know I would assume, Hank, you were as excited about that as I am.
Yeah. Episode 6.
As big fans of
Bryce Dallas Howard
Dave.
for episode 5.
Yeah.
And a mystery director that we're not really. Oh, we do know it's
Is it? It's not. I was wanting to say Deborah Chow, but is that right? No.
Maybe.
It's an Asian fella. Like I'm dropping the ball big time here.
Taika Waititi.
No.
Nope.
Worked on the Mandalorian. Had an
Yes,
episode
yes.
of the Mandalorian. Wow, and we're fans, aren't we? We'll have it this week, I'm sure. All right. Okay, I've got nothing else. I hope that you guys will continue to stay with us right here on Fandom Power as we continue to deep dive every week on the Book of Boba Fett here on our little show that for now we like to call the Book of Boba Fandom. And with 4 more episodes, we will be back to cover all of them in the same level of detail that I've come to expect from the show, and hopefully you have too. I hope it's been a worthwhile ride for you guys.
That was good. There's a lot of good stuff to dive in here.
Yeah,
Not snack size. We're a meal.
The long format is not for everybody, so I appreciate once again, with the utmost sincerity, I appreciate you choosing us as your entertainment options are so varied. So we definitely appreciate the support. Check us out on all of our socials. Follow us on everywhere. Listen to us everywhere. Watch us on preferably on YouTube. But if you're watching on Facebook right now, because we have a couple Facebook likes, thank you for following along. We will continue to post everywhere and anywhere we can find an audience. But until next week, folks, my name is Wes.
I'm Andy.
I'm Hank. Captain
All right,
Solo in the cargo hold.
Bye for now, everybody. We'll see you next week.